Sejam todos muito bem-vindos ao canal Afinal, o que somos nós? O Jacques nasceu em Nebraska, nos Estados Unidos. Em 1987, quando ele tinha 7 anos de idade, ele estava brincando na rua com os amigos quando foi atropelado por um carro. Teve uma EQM. Mesmo sendo tão jovem, a sua compreensão da vida mudou. Ele havia descoberto que havia um outro lado. Vamos conhecer a história dele?
Thank you, Jacques, for accepting to share your story with the channel. After all, what are we? I would like you to introduce yourself and right after tell your near-death experience for us. Thank you.
So, my name is Jacques Blackamore, Jacques LeBan Blackamore. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. I was born in 1980. I am a talkative person. I love people. I work with a lot of people every day. I work at the MSP airport in retail. The story I'm about to share with you is my near-death experience story and a couple of more stories. It all started in Omaha, Nebraska in 1987. I was 7 years old and it was summertime. School had just lit out and all of our friends were playing in the street, teasing cars, trying to be daring, and I thought I was too daring, and at that time I ended up running into a car as it was moving full speed. So I hit a car, spun around, there was 2 cars coming, so the second car hit me and I fell out. It was very painful. I fell to the ground. When I went to go get up from the ground, I felt like I was not in my body. I looked down, I could see myself, but I wasn't in my body, so it was very frightening for me. And I felt as if I was in a different place, but in the same place at the same time. I had no feeling of hurt or pain where I was as I was looking at myself. I felt very sensation of peace, calm, and confidence. And as I'm looking at myself, I'm actually kind of frightened because I don't know if I'm dead or alive or what took place. Everything that was at the scene was still there except for people. My friends weren't there no more. I didn't hear no voices. All I could see is myself, the neighborhood, and the area, and that's it. Then when I started to get really frightened and scared, because I never experienced this before, the lady that was in the car that actually hit me, she came back to pick me up. As soon as she shook me, I descended back down to my body. I woke up. I told my mom what happened, after they took me to the hospital. The lady told me what happened. She was letting her little niece drive, teaching her how to drive, and ended up just hitting me at the time. So no police were called. We went to the house, I healed up. I didn't break any bones or anything. But ever since 1987, in between the months of May and June, I have always remembered that memory of me looking over my body. I didn't have any more encounters after that until 1996. It was in the winter time. I was living with my older cousin, my brother, and my mother. We were all in the same apartment. And one night, I decided to sleep on the couch. And as I slept on the couch, I woke up out of my sleep. But there was one thing about waking up out of my sleep. As I was waking up, I couldn't move. I was strapped to the couch, like as if something was pressing me down, and I was paralyzed. But one thing I can move a little bit was my hand. As I moved my hand, I could feel this presence walk behind the couch behind me. Now, I didn't know anything of what this was. It felt very strong energy. It was a very strong energy, but I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what this thing was. So it came around the couch and it told me, don't worry, Jock, you could come with me. When as it spoke, it had the voice of my little brother when he was younger. Because at this time, he was going to puberty, so his voice was changing. But the thing that was coming behind the couch, telling me not to worry, sounded like him 7 years before, like he was a little kid. And when it came around the couch, it went to grab my hand. Now, I couldn't move, but I could move my hand, one hand, my right hand. And it went to shake my hand, and it said, come to me. The odd thing about this creature that came behind the couch was its hand was shaped as a 3, like this, but it was all welded together like one hand. It was alien to me. Never seen nothing like this before. So as it went to grab my hand and I grabbed his hand, I was happy because I could move my hand, but I still couldn't move my body. I was very scared. After this, the thing, I grew up in a Christian household, so my grandmother used to tell me when I was little, if anything happens to you spiritually and you're frightened, just plead the blood of Jesus. That's how my grandmother told it to me. So I tried to say that because I was frightened. I knew this couldn't be my brother because as I touched the hand, my mind, in some weird way, which I don't understand, I could see the figure. And it was black and red, or red and black. It was both colors alternating. It wasn't one solid color. And it was a very muscular figure. Couldn't be my brother. He was only a teenager. He was probably about 13 at the time. It was a very, very strong, masculine, shadowy figure. I could not see its face at all. Once I tried to say, the blood of Jesus, something gauged my mouth where I couldn't even talk. So I'm going, So I go into my mind and I close my eyes and I couldn't even say the blood of Jesus. All I could say is Jesus. And when I said Jesus, the thing let go of my hand and it looked to the corner and it said, what, for lack of better words, and excuse my language, it said, what the f*** is this? Next thing you know, I broke free. Now, I will admit to you right now, I'm not very much of a churchgoer. I do read the Bible. I read all theological texts, but I'm not a churchgoer at all. So I don't know if it was my confidence that made it break or was it the word Jesus. I have no idea what made it stop, but it was very angry. And it said, what the f*** is this? And in the corner was this big bright light. Then I woke up. So as I woke up, I ran to my mother's room because I was scared. I told my mom the whole story. My mom, she's sweet. She believes I'm God's chosen one. I'm the firstborn. So she was like, Jacques, you're very special. She was consoling me, telling me to calm down and that I'm a man or a child of God. And, things that mothers tell you when they're trying to cool you down and find out what the story that I was telling her. At that moment, my cousin, who we co-shared the apartment with, he comes out of his bedroom, he goes to the refrigerator, he grabs a beer. He looks at me and my mom, and he looks me dead in my face, and he says, you had one of those dreams, didn't you? I was scared, but I took it as a threat, as if the being that touched my hand might have somehow inhabited my cousin, because he didn't even look the same. His face was harder. He looked meaner. We're all awake. Nobody is asleep. So I said, yes, I had the dream again. I said, would you like me to tell you? And he said, yeah, go ahead, tell me your dream. Now, mind you, he just came out of his bedroom. He's standing up. And he walks up to us, and he walks with his beer, and he's looking at us. And I look at him, and I say, I tell him the story. And once it came to the part of my story when I said Jesus, his whole body shook. like that. He shook. And then he looked at me, and I looked at him. My mom looked, because it was a weird shake that he had. And as we all was staring at him, he said, wow, his face calmed down. He looked like himself again. And he said, man, when you said that, Jesus, chills went through my body. That was the other experience. Me and my mom just looked at each other, and we were just like, where did that come from? My third experience is a UFO experience. When I believe I was 19 years old. Sorry, I take that back. I was 21 years old. We were done with high school, and me and my brother, we were at a park, and we were just hanging out at a park, chilling, maybe drinking a little bit. And this was around the time of 9/11, so it was September 2001, and we were looking at the sky. And as we were looking at the sky, something flew right past us, and it was a UFO, but it was not like your average UFO, because it had a cyclical wheel spinning, and it happened to us twice. So we're looking, and it kind of goes, I would try to imitate it. It was like that. And my brother was like, did you see that? And I was like, did you see that? Soon as we said that, we looked back up in another one. And it was golden wheels, like a gold sparkly wheel. That's all I could say. I don't know if it was a spaceship. I don't know what it was. I have no idea, but I know it happened to me. Later on, around the same time, the next year, it was like the next year. It was still around the same time, but it's the next year. It was in July. It was after the 4th of July, but people were still popping fireworks. So we're on the hill, and it's with a bunch of girls, you know, it was a bunch of guys and girls. And it was my brother, I, and probably about 4 females. And we were on a hill overlooking the city of St. Paul, Minnesota, because we later moved to Minnesota. And as we were looking at like fireworks, my brother and I seemed to turn around, and what we seen was a fiery light, colors as if it was red, orange, and yellow. A flash, but it was slow because we were able to see it descend onto the earth. This is the total opposite way of what the girls were looking, but they were standing right next to us. And my brother and I, we seen it at the same time, so we both had the reaction like, "Whoa! Did you see that?" And when we did that, the girls, they got scared, like, "What?" And they looked, they didn't see anything. And I felt that was pretty strange, because even though the other girls were looking at an opposite direction, the other ones were so close to us, they had to see what we seen. But nobody didn't even see it, but just me and my brother. We were the only ones to see. Later, my last UFO experience, one day, my brother and I went to go to the movies. This was around 2011, right before 2012. We went to go see a Marvel movie, you know, some superheroes or something, like the Avengers or something. After we left the movie show, you know, I still had my 3D glasses, and I kept them on, and we were walking, and it was beginning to be nighttime. Further ahead, I seen a wavy part of the sky. Wavy like heat waves. It was something that was in the sky, but you couldn't see it because it had some type of invisible mechanism to it. But I could see it with my 3D glasses on, and I was telling my brother, I was like, "Can you see that? Can you see that?" But this time he couldn't see anything. And he said, "What? What are you looking at?" So I grabbed him and I said, "Right there, right there." As I pointed at the thing that I seen kind of descending, it evaporated right in my face, like right in my eyes. My brother never seen a thing at that point. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. I have one more story. In the 2008, I was staying with my mom, and I had a dream. I had a dream that my brain was talking to me. If I could explain that, I really can't explain. It's kind of strange to me. But I went to sleep, and this is another spiritual experience or something that haunts me. It was my brain, and it was telling me that my brain was a part of a bigger brain or bigger mind that created itself. It's like it was the almighty I, if you will. Not I that we see, I like the personality. And it was saying that everybody in the world is connected, and every brain in the world or every mind in the world comes from that one mind. I would never forget that dream, and I tell it to my mom every now and then. I would like to say this is my first time giving an interview about any of my spiritual or scientific or experiences, but I am very comfortable to tell them right now, and I feel good about them.
Why didn't you ever tell this?
I was frightened, scared that people wouldn't believe me. I know my brother and my mother and some of my relatives probably believe me, but I was scared that maybe it was people would think that I was crazy, or maybe I was hallucinating myself. Maybe it was all in my mind, but that couldn't be the fact because on some occasions I had people with me, like my brother, to see the same things. So I just basically kept it to myself. Never before put it on film or never before decided to explain it. What made me decide to do it now is because I'm comfortable with you, Mr. Carlos. Yeah.
When you had your near-death experience, you didn't see nobody, you felt peace, you felt confidence, you felt comfortable. Did you feel at that time connected to everything?
Yes, I did feel connected to everything because I was so at peace and comfortable. I had no fear. I didn't even think that I was dead. I just thought it was strange that I was looking at myself from outside of myself.
Were you surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised. I felt like I was surprised after I woke up. I mean, after the incident, but at the time, it was not. It was actually natural. It felt natural.
When you came back to your body, did you remember right away what had happened?
Yes, I remember right away what had happened. The only thing that was different is when I woke up, when the lady was shook me to wake up, people were around. But at the time, there was no people around. But when I woke up, there was kids, birds, noises, kind of like how we hear in nature. It was people. All my friends were running around, and the lady and her niece was with her. So I didn't see none of that when I was outside. All I could see is myself. But when I came to, I seen all that, and that's pretty much, that surprised me too, because I knew that I was somewhere different just moments before.
You were very young, but can you say that somehow your life changed from then on?
Yes, my life, I felt like I became very much trying to figure out what the other side has, because I knew after being in a different world, when you come back, you know there's more out there. You may not could explain what is out there, you may not even know what is out there, but you know, like I know, that there was something out there that was not explained to people, and that was beyond our comprehension.
Okay, you say you're Christian. You were Christian. You are now. How can you make both things exist at the same time? Your faith and your experience.
Well, as I get more experiences, and I'm sorry to say this to some Christians out there, but my faith diminishes a little bit more, because the more I learn, and the more I experience different things, sometimes my faith can't even answer the questions that I see.
But at the same time, you had a dream that was showing you that there was something else beyond all of us.
It confirms, to me, it confirms that there may be an afterlife, or there's a higher self, or we are God. God is us. We're one big manifestation of one being. That's all I could explain, but I don't know to call it Allah, Jehovah, Krishna, Buddha. I don't know, because who's to say it's not one of them or it's the same? I don't know. I'm more confused. I will admit and say that I'm more confused on the other side. I think it's more of a abstract universe where things here is just more straight.
But this happens when you're here. But when you were there, you didn't have this kind of doubt.
I didn't have when I was, and I'm older now. I'm in my 30s. I'm past 37. But this was over 32 years ago, or 22 years ago. But when I was in that other place, there was no doubt, no pain, no fear. But there was confidence, there was energy, and there was calmness.
Did you feel anyway cared?
Yes, I felt like I was either cared for or around I felt peace, like you're around, like, you know how you feel when you're around your family and you feel so good? I felt there, but there was nothing around. It was just me and myself in the street and a couple houses.
But you felt secure.
I felt secured. I did not feel secure.
Did you feel as you knew somehow that place where you were from before?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that I have been there before. It was a familiar feeling. It was a familiar feeling, yes.
How do you see the different religions in the world today and what they could do?
I feel like there's so many different religions, but they're all the same. Every religion I notice has some type of chosen son of God. So I believe religions are good for us, but I believe that they should be one instead of so many different ones. You know what I mean? Like, you have denomination after denomination. In the Christian religion, you have Baptist, Pentecostal, Catholicism. You have so many different religions, but we're all trying to get to the same thing. We're all trying to get to know that we're peaceful and together. At the time that I was 7, I didn't understand that. But when I had in 2008, when I felt like my brain talked to me, or my higher mind, or whatever that was talking to me, the voice, which was loud. It was a loud voice, and I couldn't tell if it was male or female. It was just that strong.
How strong?
Strong like thunder, like just strong, like bunch of noise and strong. And the voice, I felt like it was a parent of me, like it could have been my mom or my dad. It was that strong of a voice and that strong of a feeling that I got from the voice.
Could you say that it was an inner voice inside your head, or did you hear through your ears?
I would say that it was an inner voice inside my head, but it was loud as if I was hearing it through my ears. And I could still hear the voice in my head to this day. But it was in my head. It wasn't like outside. It didn't come from outside, because it came from the dream. But sometimes dreams are so real.
And do you remember the feeling you had during the dream when you heard this voice?
Yes, I felt like I was getting a download of information. Like, I felt like it was something that I needed to know that I didn't know, that this voice was going to tell me. And it felt like a download, like a lot of information at one time. But it was simplified at the same time. It was not painful.
I would invite you to try to define us. What are we?
I feel like we are light beings, spiritual beings, having an experience through this human body. I think that we are more than what we think we are. I think that we all have special gifts, special abilities. A friend of mine, Mr. Terry, that I met years ago, he told me we all have tags, TAGS, talents, abilities, gifts, and skills. But we have to find our purpose to get the prosperity out of our talents, abilities, gifts, and skills.
Beautiful, Dad. Well, you already did it, but I would ask you to leave a message for everyone.
No, I do want to leave a message. I want to tell everybody, don't be afraid to tell your story. There's more of us having these experiences in life. Try to connect with people that are like you. And think positive. Positivity is as real as negativity. When people want to say they want to live negative and say, well, that's reality. No, that's not reality. Reality is also positivity. We have to learn how to deal with the good and the bad. But still, when you're positive, I feel like your more powerful energy comes to you. So my message to the people is stay positive, dig deep down for your talents, abilities, gifts, and skills, and know that you have a purpose in life.
Would you let a message for people who has never been through an experience like that?
Yes, for the people that never experienced this before, if you ever have a friend or a relative that come to you and say, I had experience, don't be so doubtful. Just because you haven't experienced it does not mean that it's not real. Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it's not real.
What is necessary for mankind to know so that we can get out of this complex moment?
We need, as mankind, we need to know ourselves, but yet be selfless to others. Not so selfish, not so self-absorbed. Mankind, I feel like we're one race, the human race. And we have to learn how to coexist with each other. Until you learn how to build your own spaceship and fly away, we have to learn how to coexist with each other. The world is complicated. There's a lot of trouble going on in this world today. But I believe that mankind is bigger than how little sometimes we act. And as long as we think bigger and think more positive, we can access the power that we're meant to have. I feel like we're meant to have better power, greater abilities. But until we learn how to look in ourselves and employ love with each other, we're not going to get there until we do that.
About your second experience, when you were paralyzed, how do you understand now this person?
Honestly, I can't ever explain it. I don't know. I feel like it may be a piece of myself. The more I talk about things, the more I realize all my spiritual experience might be interconnected with being just a piece of me that needs to be explored. I really don't know what that entity was. I know I didn't trust it. It could have been an outside force. It could have been a negative spirit of me. I never got enough closure in that situation to understand.
Do you believe there are several dimensions or layers of existence?
Yes. I believe there's layers. I believe there's many layers of existence, many different levels of this world. Nothing is so three-dimensional. If there's a third dimension, there has to be a fourth dimension, fifth dimension, and I think it goes infinitely. I'll give you an example. Let's say me and you are deaf. We cannot hear. How will we communicate? Through sign language, right? That's a whole world that's alien to me because I can hear. But there's a lot of people that are deaf that have their own language. Just like there's people in different countries. Asia, Africa, Europe, South America. I believe there's level of existence just like there's levels of different cultures.
And how do you put together your experience with the UFO experience? Would you see any connection between them?
I did not see a connection, because I was separate from myself, but I think I know there's a connection. I think the spirit realm and the higher science realm, I don't think they're separate. I just think man failed to realize that they're really interconnected. And I think that's what the object of education and educating ourselves further in evolution. You know? I do really feel like I know that all of my experiences in my near-death experience, they're some way connected. I just right now cannot explain what that is.
Well, we know that, for instance, the dogs, they have they can smell what we cannot smell. Mm-hmm. They can feel what we cannot feel. You saw the UFO. Your brother saw them too, mm-hmm. But there are some girls that didn't. Would you think that there are different levels of sensibility?
Yes, like frequency, like tune in frequency. You know, me and my brother, we live in the same household. So we're going to tune on the same frequency or same channel or something. I believe, like, you know, dogs, they have dog whistles. You know, humans can't hear the dog whistle, but the dog can hear the dog whistle. It's a frequency it's different levels of existence, existing on different volumes and different frequencies that some people may tune into.
And some people says that these dimensions are different frequencies. Exactly. Yes. That.
I coined a phrase. I probably am not the original person to coin this, but I say angels and demons is like angles in dimensions.
That's interesting. One more question. About your senses, your five senses, mm-hmm. Did you feel they got more accurate somehow, stronger?
Yes. When I work in retail and I have to deal with a lot of people, sometimes I could talk to people and tell them where they're from, who they are. I have developed that better since my experiences. I think it's a part of trying to tune myself into figuring out what happened and seeing myself in other people. Because I feel like I have to know myself to even try to even know somebody else. So, yes, I do believe that my five senses was just a little bit more enhanced.
Can you feel the feeling of someone else?
Yes. Sometimes if I'm into somebody, you know, I could feel if they're sad, I could feel if they're anxious. I think I feel for people a little bit deeper.
Could you say that there is something yet between you and this other reality as the door had not been completely shut?
I don't think the door is shut at all. Because even where we're standing here right now, I feel like this is an experience. So when I go home and lay down, I'm gonna say, how did I even get into this interview? That was not by chance, and that's another experience, I feel.
Some people who went through near-death experience, some of them told me that in some moment of their lives, they felt touched, physically touched. Did it happen to you any time?
Yes, I did have a time of meditating one time with a cane in the tree tome of life meditation exercise that I was trying, tree of life meditation, and I used a piece of wood as if I was trying to connect as a tree. It was a cane, and I had my eyes closed and I was in my friend's basement at the time. Nobody was there, just me and the cane and my meditation. And I felt the wooden pieces, the wooden cane, I felt it jerk from me. When I opened my eyes, there was no one there. So, and deep inside, I feel touched still from my experience. Like, I feel like even when I felt like my mind was speaking to me, I could still hear that very strong voice to this day. To this day, I could hear it. So I feel like I'm touched. I feel like it touched me. Whatever things that we can't explain that's beyond us, it's there. There's something there. There's another realm. Each spiritual experience that I had besides my second experience after my near death, everyone except for that one, I have not had any fear. I feel like when I have the experience, usually it's comfort. The only one that I did not have a good time with was the sleep paralysis one, because it was so different. But each other experience that I have had, I felt like it felt comfortable with it. It never felt like too foreign or scary.
Are you afraid of death now?
No, I'm not afraid of death.
How would you define death?
I can't define death. I can only say that it's a part of life. That and death might be more beautiful than life. I don't know yet, but I know with my near-death experience, it was not bad.
Did you feel anything about the future?
Yes. Each time I have an experience, I could see a little bit into the future. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. I don't think like they say, the older people used to say, future's not written in stone.
You're not talking about the future of mankind, something like that?
No, but I do see I think mankind is going to get to a better place. I just think we have to get over the negativity now. Right now, if you watch the news, there's so many bad things. I feel like the earth feels it. I feel like the earth breathes and has feelings. How do we get seasons? You know, the earth is starting to do things. We're seeing more hurricanes, more tornadoes in the Midwest. We're seeing more rain damage, more fires, more earthquakes. Could this be the earth being a part of us, telling us that we need to take more care of the earth? That's what I do think we're going to have a good future, but we still have to go through some things just to get there.
You feel that Earth is alive?
I know Earth is alive, yes. Thinking. I think Earth thinks.
Se você gostou, por favor, se inscreva no nosso canal, dê muitos likes, faça comentários, compartilhe com os amigos, toca o sininho que você sempre fica sabendo quando chega vídeo novo, e se você tem alguma dúvida ou teve uma EQM e gostaria de compartilhar a sua história com o mundo, por favor, nos escreva. O nosso e-mail é afinal.oquesomosnós@gmail.com. Essa é uma nova fronteira do conhecimento humano. Vamos juntos atravessá-la?